Do you sometimes want to cut corners to get success now instead of putting in the hard work, dealing with the difficulty, the failure, the grind for years to develop long-term character? Well, you're in luck because today's episode we're talking about short-term success versus long-term character, the benefits, the costs of both. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy? I was gonna say when you said that, I was thinking, I was like, yeah, of course.
Duh.
Like,
Duh. Well, yeah, it's something that nowadays we're almost encouraged to take the shortcut.
yeah, all the time. Do you know what's funny? I remember when I was in grad school, this is going back too to like 2006. So this is not even like recent. I can only imagine it got worse. I remember I was talking to one of the faculty in the philosophy department, and he was kind of jokingly, but also like with a lot of concern, telling us that like the sciences had approached him. He was an ethicist, and they asked him if he could put together a course on research and like just like general applied ethics for their science PhDs because they were having a problem where like most PhDs apparently like at the time like or most people in the program had the idea that it was better to get things published and stuff and basically cheat to get things published and out there because that was more important than anything else. And so if they didn't get caught, it wouldn't matter. And the chance of getting caught
Hmm.
were fairly low. And yeah, so it's like this big concern that like, well, like, there were fraudulent data, stuff like that. It's like, and there was a whole slew of those for a while. I think there still are, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. Like I remember I was trying to think back to when this all started, and at least for me, I first noticed it when they started to have those like coding books. It was like learn Python in 24 hours, learn Java in 24 hours, learn C in 24 hours. And then now it's like, you just look on YouTube or something and it's like 30 days of doing push-ups did this. And it's just
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like do this in 30 minutes now, or like, my favorite was
Hmm.
I think it was like it was like it was a New Year's Day thing that they were doing. It was like 7 days to pick up a habit. And I was like, you can't pick up a habit 7 days.
Yeah.
That's you just
Yeah.
did something for 7 days. Like,
Yeah,
like you
exactly.
didn't like actually like develop a habit. Yeah. It's and then part
I
of it, I
just
think it's just that like that idea that, everybody's looks at all these cases of people that seemingly go from zero to like billions instantly. And it's like I think there's just idea that there's like shortcuts to success. Which I kind of get. Like, I get the sense like if you're in a position where you need something, especially money or something, you dream of like having a lot. And like yeah, like you want it to happen right now. And I get that. But the chances of that actually happening are very, 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 very low. I would argue probably zero or almost zero, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it does take time and it's really hard to comprehend that, I think, especially when you're young, when you're aspirational, or when you have like a lot of debt or pressure or stuff like that. But almost all of the true successes it takes a long time. Like I was watching Hell's Kitchen with Gordon Ramsay, and every time like every season he'll go out to dinner with some of the winners from the show. And one of them asked him something about like how did you go so quickly from like starting your own restaurant to the success you are now? And he's like, I'm not sure if you realize it, but it took me 30 years. And
Yeah,
I was
quickly.
like, I was like, goodness. But it's kind of eye-opening because like we all want really big success now, but it takes a lot of time. Or like Mel
Well,
Robbins,
I was just gonna
yeah.
say, Gordon Ramsay's a good case too, because he's a person too where like he was in a good place at the right time, like where he had already built up all these decades of experience and stuff, where like and the celebrity chefs were like just becoming like this big thing that like it worked out. But like yeah, like I mean it took a long time. It's not, but we all have this perception. Everybody assumes it's immediate for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, or like Mel Robbins, I was just listening to her book again, and she was saying how it like to get from being hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to where she is now, it took 15 years of hard work.
Yeah.
And that's, most people are just like, yeah, but I just want to be a Zuck, but he was probably coding for at least 7 years or something before he actually developed Facebook.
Yeah.
And, that was in his room by himself, not with girls and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. And it's like, and I think that's true, like, right? You're usually those people are missing out on other things because they're only doing one thing. It's very focused, which is cool. Like, if that's your thing, go for it, right? But it takes a lot of time to develop the skills that you need to do it and to figure out like new ideas and stuff that are actually going to work. And I think nowadays too, the problem is it's also like, well, influencers too, because you mentioned that already too. Like, I think that's one of the problems where people have this perception that's like, they just do one video and it blows up, and like then they're all of a sudden they have all these offers and stuff. And yeah, there's like very few cases where that has actually happened. Most people make videos for years, put in a lot of effort, and then they get lucky with one. And then it's like
Hmm.
that gives them some actual audience, and then they can build from there. But they have to be putting in the work still and doing it. And it's a lot of effort.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then figuring
Definitely.
out everything else after that.
Yeah. Which brings you kind of to the idea of success, because a lot of people think that like success is maybe money or popularity or I don't know, things in those directions. But and they're willing to cut corners and do maybe unethical things to get there. But it's kind of at the cost of who they become as a person.
No, 100%. Yeah, I think it is. It's like, well, it's like, fame, wealth. And I would throw like, I guess politicians are like fame too, right? Stuff like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Oh
just
yeah.
group that in with that. Yeah, it's like those two are the big ones, I think. And like this perception that you can go from nothing to immediate, like, ultra wealthy. I think that idea just kind of like abounds in those areas too, which makes it even worse. But you're right. Like, I think, that's the danger too of like having success early on. You can wake up and find out that you're this person that you never even like put any time in or thought about or anything. And I think
Hmm.
that's why you see so much depression too with people that are very successful later on who got lucky, especially early on in life, because it's like they never really had time to like figure out who the hell they were and like
Especially if
build
they feel
themselves.
like they don't deserve it.
Yeah.
Like they just got lucky, and if it's taken away, they might not be able to build it again. That could be something huge. But
I wonder if that's why you get that flip side where like they act like they did everything, that it was
mm,
all them because of that, like you're denying that like luck factor
well,
and stuff and
usually
all.
usually the most boastful people are the ones who are the most insecure.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, right?
Yeah, they're trying to convince themselves. But kind of a better definition I heard for success was Earl Nightingale, where he says it's the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So instead of thinking success is like, oh, success is when I have all this money or when I'm famous or when I reach this end goal, it's actually realizing a worthy ideal or a goal, something that's important to you, not to other people. So this
Yeah.
kind of kicks fame and everything off the table because it's something that's worthwhile to you, uh, and progressively realizing it. So the whole entire process of as you're getting there, that's actually success.
Well, and actually in that sense too, if it's progressively too continuing to reaffirm it as well.
Hmm.
Even after you've, gotten to wherever the hell you're trying to get or like achieve that thing, right? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know, I do think this is a problem because we talked about like happiness and like success before, and I think our concept of it is such a mess. And it doesn't like include any of like the actual living of life or the fact that there's going to be ups and downs, that it's not a permanent state of bliss, all of this. And I think part of it is I think we just like life is hard, and I think it's easy to sort of lie to ourselves in our imagination and like convince ourselves that if this one thing were this way, everything would be better.
Hmm.
Because, especially with money's the easiest example of that too. Because I think when you're broke or really in debt, it's hard to just function, right? And like stressful. And so it makes sense to think that, oh, once this problem's solved, and if I really solved it, everything else would be gravy. But it's
Hmm.
like that's not necessarily going to be the case because you're still you
Yeah.
and you still have to live with you.
Just look at any celebrity, how messed up their lives are. And it's like they've got money, they've got fame, and they're still a mess.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Hmm.
interesting. I think that's like one of those things too with age where you see like a lot of the older people who like have more come to terms with things because they've had times to like grapple with, all these things after the success, like themselves and working on their own
Hmm.
character and who they are. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think
So
it's
then the other thing is kind of the long-term character, because that's like, even though like short-term success is nice, long-term success is okay, but like long-term character is kind of the brutal stuff because really building character is all the painful stuff that you just kind of have to endure.
Yeah. Well, changing yourself is hard, right? It takes like, I mean, I always liked like the concept of like virtue ethics because it's like, that steady repetition of like reaffirming and just, these same things over and over again to slowly change who you are. And I think that's
Hmm.
how we do change. I think it's very hard to change ourselves. It takes a lot of work and effort, but it is totally possible. And yeah, that's where that grind comes in of just like trying to like get yourself to this point and having an idea of who you want to be. But I think
Hmm.
that's where that benefit is, though, is it takes a lot of self-knowledge and self-awareness and self-reflection. So it also is like, when you get there, it's like so much more valuable because you've created this you made yourself into what you want. You haven't been listening to the outside. You haven't, and I think there's a lot of value in that, though.
Hmm. Yeah. So let's see. But are there cases where short-term success is worthwhile to pursue?
I mean, that's the hard question, right? At the cost of like, it's always at the cost of something, and that
Well,
stuff can
so
bite you in the
okay,
ass too.
so like I heard this thing not too long ago that like humans basically want to go towards pleasure, avoid pain, and use the least effort possible. So
That makes
like
sense.
all of that basically says, by definition, by being a human, we want to just go for short-term pleasures.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of lazy. We want things to be easy.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
kind of, I kind of get that though. You look at other animals. I mean, it's like, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you want things to
That's
be as
kind of how
simple as
you
possible.
survive.
Yeah,
Because well, it's really interesting because like some things in life, pleasures are actually good for you, but some things in life, pleasures are really bad for you. And
find
it's
the
kind
right
of
ones. Well,
trying to find the right
that's the
ones
bitch, right? The right ones at the right time.
and the
That's
right
where,
amount.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
ethics and morality right there in a nutshell and character building. Yeah, it's
Mm.
kind of tough. It is funny. I think the problem with too, like nowadays, is like back in the day, right? Like you could do things and maybe people would never find out about it. But nowadays, like everything has a footprint online and digital footprint. So I think that's the other thing people don't think about is like even if you do get some quick success, if that's at the cost of something, if it involves cheating or lying or something, that's out there. And
Hmm.
that could be something that you're going to have to deal with later too, that could cause issues, or
Hmm.
cause problems. So it's like trying to be mindful of that too. And it is hard. Like you said, when you're young, it's really hard because, it's easy to be, focus on like idealistic things and like have that energy and all and not really give a shit about anything else.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're just more high risk, I guess.
Hmm. Cool. Well, I think we answered that one. So there you have it. The
Sure.
definitive answer between short-term success and long-term character. Until next time, this is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.